Hey everybody, this is Dr. K. Abhinaya from the Department of English, St. Joseph's College of Engineering. The topic of today's presentation is public speaking skills. Let me begin with introduction. So I would also like to begin with a question. Have you ever had a brilliant idea but struggled to express in class? Have you ever known the answer in class but would have felt hesitant and wouldn't have answered? Many of us would have felt the same situation. Because communication is not possessing knowledge, it is about expressing knowledge effectively. There is a famous saying by Emerson: all the great speakers were bad speakers at first. This quote reminds us that public speaking is not an inborn talent. Rather, it is a skill that can be learned, practiced, and mastered. We will be exploring the fascinating world of public speaking. We will also understand how speeches are made, how audiences are analyzed, how presentation has to be done, etc. By the end of the session, you will realize that successful public speaking is not about speaking more, it is about connecting better. You can very well imagine a situation where you prepared extremely well, but you wouldn't have answered properly to the interviewer or your teacher or to some higher official, etc. What would have happened is that your knowledge was gone? No, it wouldn't have disappeared. But the challenge was that it was due to communication. Public speaking bridges the gap between what we know and what others understand. So here we'll be introducing a conceptual framework of public speaking process and the process of public communication, and we'll also exhibit how speech effectiveness is determined and how the speaker is able to understand and adapt the message of the speech to the audience. Moving on to the next slide. As I told you some time back, it begins with the Emerson's quote: all the great speakers were bad speakers at first. It is empowering oneself by speaking better. Eloquence of words is irrelevant if the words are not heard by. Speakers has to have a specific goal in mind and has to achieve it while delivering their presentation. How public speaking emerged. Public speaking is one of humanity's oldest skills. Long before newspapers, televisions, mobile phones, and the internet existed, leaders communicated their ideas with people through speeches. In ancient Greeks, citizens gathered in public assemblies where important issues were discussed. Great philosophers like Aristotle studied communication and explain how speeches influence human behavior. Similarly, in ancient India, kings, poets, scholars, and even spiritual leaders addressed large gatherings to educate, motivate, and inspire people. Thus, public speaking evolved as a powerful tool for sharing ideas, persuading people, and creating social change. Even today, despite technological advancement, speeches continue to influence millions of people across the world. With the advent of technology, we believe that um, speaking is not important, but the truth is that we communicate through online classes, meetings, webinars, conferences, interviews, presentation, etc. And even employers, communication skills, even employees value communication skills as one of the important components, And a person who can communicate effectively often receives more opportunities than someone who possesses knowledge but struggles to express it. Therefore, public speaking empowers individuals, builds confidence, develops leadership skills, and enhances career growth. What is public speaking? Public speaking is the process of communicating ideas, information, or opinions to a group of people. It is an important feature of everyday life, whether you're a student presenting a seminar, an engineer explaining a project, or teaching in class, or a manager leading a team. Public speaking plays a vital role. Public speaking empowers individuals and enables them to express ideas confidently and clearly. It is audience centered communication. One of the most important principles of public speaking is being audience centered. Can you imagine explaining a big concept to school children? They may not understand because the content, the content must depend on the audience. However, if you are if you are explaining it using simple toys or examples, illustrations, they'll be able to understand. So the an audience and the nature of audience is equally important. There are three main purpose of public speaking. First is to inform. Usually, speeches are made to provide information or knowledge to the public. For example, a teacher teaching a lesson. Another type is to persuade, changing opinions or influencing actions. For example, a political campaign speeches where the objective is to persuade the people. And the third category is providing enjoyment and engagement. A host of a cultural event. There, the agenda would be is to entertain people. So it can be either to enrich them or to persuade them or to entertain them. Moving on to the next slide. This is the effective communication process model. Here, you need to focus on audience, context, speaker, how a speech is planned and how it is being made and what is the effectiveness of the speech. So these are the important factors while preparing for a speech. The next slide is about audience. They are the specific group of people to whom speech is made. So you need to plan by studying who your audience is. Audience analysis is made to learn the diverse characteristics of audience and in order to predict how members of the audience are apt to listen to, understand, and be motivated to act on the speech. Moving on to the next slide, audience feedback. During speech making process, non-verbal and even sometimes they are verbal clues or cues indicate the reaction of the audience. Even as a teacher, when we explain concepts to the students, by looking at some of their facial expressions, gestures, and the comments, we will be able to understand whether they are listening, understanding, or whether they don't like it. And accordingly, we tend to change the way we explain. So that's how. The audience feedback is important in order to change the way we explain the concept. Moving on to the next slide, context. Context comprised of physical, cultural, historical, and psychological factors in setting the speech. Physical setting includes the location, ambience, how seating arrangement is done, what is the distance between the speaker and where the audience are put up, and the uh, time of the day, what is the temperature of the room, lighting, etc. All these is about physical setting. Moving on to the next one, cultural setting, whether they belong to same cultural background, whether they have got different values, beliefs, and their social patterns might vary. So you need to analyze the cultural setting of the audience. You need to understand their cultural background as well. And then the historical setting, it comprised of events that have occurred prior to the speech and that are related to the speech topic. So people might understand about tsunami and COVID after facing it. Earlier, if you had spoken to them about COVID or tsunami, they wouldn't have understood. So it is better to include historical setting before delivering your speech. Moving on to the next one, psychological setting is comprised of the moods, feelings, attitudes, and beliefs of the audience. So you need to plan and execute based on the mindset of the audience. And then speaker is the source or the originator. So based on the diagram, first our focus is on audience, are we talking to, what is their age group, what is their cultural background, what is their physical setup, what is their mindset, all these matters. And then we consider audience. And moving on to speaker, speaker is the one who is going to deliver, who is the source of information. The language used to express ideas is the next factor. Going on to the next slide, speech planning process. So this is a system that is used to prepare a speech. So these are sometimes disorganized, boring, and difficult to follow due to lack of planning process. If the planning process is proper, obviously the speech would be successful. And there are 6 steps to plan the speech, and they are selecting a specific speech goal suitable to audience and occasion. We have discussed audience and occasion. So we need to select the speech goal pertaining to audience and occasion. And the next is developing a strategy for audience adaptation. And thirdly, gathering and evaluating information. Fourth one, organizing and developing information into well structured outline. And most importantly, choosing visual aids. And finally, practicing the speech wording and delivery. Moving on to the next slide, speech making process. After carefully preparing the speech, it has to be delivered to the audience. So you need to understand the audience, you need to fix the goal, and you need to understand their mindset. You need to include relevant information. You need to have a proper outline. You have to include a lot of visual images so that it is appealing to the audience. And you should speech, you should have rehearsals before your delivery. Speech making process. After carefully preparing the speech, it has to be delivered to the audience. The purpose is that the audience should get the message, should understand what we have been talking about. and the process of actually presenting the speech to the intended audience. Though nervous, planning process would give you the confidence to focus on the points. So even though you have anxiety or apprehension, if your planning is good, if your content is rich enough, that would give you confidence to perform better. Conscious of what you say and respond to the feedback of the audience. You should also be ready with your concept. In addition, you should also refer to the feedback of the audience. If they are interested, then you can go ahead in the same pitch. If they are demotivated or not listening, then you may have to change the way you are delivering. And when well prepared, deviation is in the speech is possible. Although you are well prepared, sometimes deviation is also possible. You need to be prepared. Moving on to the next slide, speech effectiveness. Speech effectiveness refers to the extent to which the audience listens, understands, remembers, acts upon the message. A successful speech captures attention and motivates action. The true measure of success is audience impact. As we conclude, remember that public speaking is not a talent. Reserved for a selected few. It is a skill that can be developed through preparation, practice, and persistence. Today, we have learned about the evolution of public speaking, how it evolved, the importance of audience and analysis, how you need to analyze the audience, and the gestures they give while presenting your content. And then we also discuss context and communication, speech planning, how you're supposed to plan your speech. We discuss six topics and speech delivery, speech effectiveness, etc. I would like to conclude that public speaking is not about speaking perfectly, it is about sharing ideas confidently. It is not about impressing people, it is about connecting with people. Thank you.